Welcome to 13 Minutes of News. In 13 minutes or less. What's up, you guys? As you can see, I get all my news from Rideshare Rodeo. Oh, wait. My whole desk is gone. That's right. Today I am moving my office. I'm changing things around in the house. We kind of have to do that with the seasons here at my house in Denver. So, yeah, I forgot to do this before I took apart that. So, ridesharerodeo.com, that's where I get all the news. That's where you guys can go research deeper on all the news I talk about on here. But I do want to say real quickly, shout out to our new sponsor, ParaWorks. You guys will be seeing lots of that stuff on the channel and other social medias and things like that of the testing I'm doing, and I'm happy to help all of you walk through it. So Steve at ridesharerodeo.com. You guys know how to reach out to me. Please do. Give me a minute or two, but I will respond to every email. That said, let's jump into the news. Sorry about the setup, you guys, today, but this next week, it'll be a whole new one. It'll be cool. But let's jump into this. So first thing I want to talk about, we've been talking about a lot, so I didn't want to put too much, I didn't want to jump back in. I'm always going back to this again. But I do want to, if you didn't catch the piece I did with Kim Cavan this week, it is called Rodeo Live. I think it might be the future of independent workers, or else something along those lines. It dropped on Wednesday, November 2nd on the YouTube channel. Please go and watch that. I'm going to be releasing a segment of that explains a lot of things in about 17 minutes that I've never been able to do that clearly in that short of a time. And I would recommend all of you watch that, but go watch the piece, especially if you haven't voted yet. If you have not voted yet, and it's not to sway a vote, it's just to make you informed, as you should be before you vote. So please go watch that. Other than that, let's get into some of the news that I really want to talk about here. So the DC lawsuit against Shipt, been talking about it on the podcast this week, been talking about it a little bit, because I was seeing more through that than I think most people were. And what I do need to say is that the DC mayor, who is suing Shipt for misqualifying, for misclassifying workers or independent contractors as workers, as employees, he wants them to be employee classified now. Now, I was seeing more to this story than I think most were, and I got to say that already between when this story launched, now Minnesota's on board with this same exact thing. So here's what they're doing. And it's very weird because this kind of stuff might be happening in the new year, especially in some of the states, Massachusetts, other states, Washington, that are changing their laws a bit, okay, to not be so much AB 5, but something along those lines, something along the lines of you're an employee and they're going to do everything they can to make you that, those states. And then by the way, as I've mentioned many times, all the states are looking at this. So don't think you're in the clear if you don't live in one of the states that's going in January. In fact, even some of the red states are being looked at. And then there's the federal piece, which I just told you to go watch the Kim Cavan piece. We'll explain the whole thing. But here's the deal. So the mayor wants to sue Shipt. He hasn't picked any other of DC. Wants to sue Shipt, or is suing Shipt. Now, he's suing them based on the misclassification, which is exactly what Instacart, or what the county of San Diego did to Instacart in November of 2019. Now, that is of the date, the month and date is very important there. Let's roll it back a bit and remember that in September of 2019, Gavin Newsom and Lorena Gonzalez made AB 5. It didn't take a lot more than really them. Those two together were able to make AB 5, kick it into law with a couple other people having their back. And so in September, they decided as of January 1st of 2020, we will start enforcing AB5, which ruined 1.5 plus million people's lives in California. When I say that, I'm not talking about the app-based gig economy. I'm talking about the traditional gig economy, freelancers, writers, authors, musicians who didn't get their carve-outs in AB 2257. It's just such a nightmare. But yes, their careers were ruined. They're still not back in place. They can't work. So these were people who had built 30, 40-year businesses, and all of a sudden they're being told you can't do this. Well, he's not going after some of the other gig apps, but he's going after Shipt. Now, Shipt has a absolute tie to who? That's right, Target. So he wants to do what Instacart did. So Instacart sued California for misclassifying workers in California in November 2019 or November 2019. But the law didn't go into effect until January 1st, 2020. And that's the same exact thing that's going on here. This guy has made a lawsuit based on a law that will probably go into effect for him in his area in January, if not shortly after. But here's my big question. How in the world, in California, I didn't understand how the Instacart thing happened. And by the way, that finally settled a couple weeks ago. We talked about it. I don't know if I talked about it on 13 Minutes, but I've talked about it on other programs I do and on the channel. That did settle for $46 million out of court with San Diego, and Instacart paid him $46 million. Why? That came before it was a law. So here's the deal. At least AB5 was a law that was going into place then. For this DC guy, he's basing this on if we win the midterms and if we can get this legislation in place, then it'll be a law. That is already much different, because that doesn't mean it's a law. How can you sue somebody without a law? But that's how I felt about California. How are you suing Instacart for a law that doesn't go into place for 2 months? I mean, I just want everybody to think that through. And by the way, please leave your comments on this. I really do want to know how you feel about this. And if you're a lawyer, leave a comment on this. How do you, if you pass a law, it goes into place, and then it's in September of 2019, and it says, okay, January 1st, this law starts. And then in November, somewhere in the middle of that, right in the middle of the range, somebody sues you on the law that's going to begin here. I really don't understand this. I don't understand that. I know that anybody can sue anybody for anything. That is the truth. But here's the thing. When it comes to this law, shouldn't you have to wait till at least January 1st, January 2nd kind of thing? At least until it is a law, it's ratified, it's part of the laws of your state now? To me, it seems very odd that you're like, I'm suing you on that law that's going into effect in 2 months. And in this case, it's much different because it's not a law already. So they're really reaching here. And I just don't understand it. So I think you guys have seen, clearly we are coming into a recession, if not already in one. It depends on the person's point of view. Recession has nothing to do political. It is being politicized right now because the midterms are in 5 days. So as much as I'm excited to see the outcome of these midterms and how it affects the gig economy, I'm also looking forward to it being passed, because I think we'll hear it's recession very quickly. But since it is a recession, Lyft is laying off, 700 employees, which is a quarter of their employees. Not drivers, not independent contractor drivers, but employees. So they're taking 25% of their employees, their W-2s, and laying them off. And all these gig companies out of Silicon Valley, all of them are in hiring freezes. I mean, you name one. There might be sectors of Google, but you name another one, like Uber. And I'm talking about W-2s here, positions with the company, not gig work. So Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, they're not hiring anybody. Nobody. They're in a holding pattern, a freezing pattern, no hiring. So this draws a little concern to me because, everybody's concerned about, oh, well, the gig economy's getting oversaturated, this, that, maybe it's time to go get a W-2. It might be for you, but I got to say this. Please do your homework first, because I don't know, and I've had many W-2s, and I've had success with most of them, and now I'm just in a place where that doesn't work in my life. But here's my question. How safe is your W-2? That's a big question that you guys need to ask yourself. How safe is your W-2? If you're like, forget the gig economy, I'm gonna go get a W-2. How safe is it? Just compared to years past, times past, where it's pretty safe. We can say that about most jobs, as long as you don't screw up, kind of thing. Pretty safe. Good job getting hired. Now you can build a foundation with this company. But right now, I hear about way too many people getting W-2s, getting laid off, getting fired, and not getting fired for doing anything. Just, we don't have any shifts for you. And yet I see low staff places. So people are cutting budgets. Even the business owners are cutting budgets. So it's like, we were blaming short staffing on the pandemic, but now, is it a sign that we're already in the recession? Because I think it is. I think that it's very convenient that, and I don't think they're doing it for this reason, but the pandemic had it so that even when we were coming out of the pandemic, it was, hey, we need to start hiring a ton of people. We couldn't hire enough people for the jobs. Now we're hearing about layoffs, hiring freezes at big companies, and yet, people are going back to the W-2, and then they're finding out that it's not what they were promised. It's not the job they thought they were going to get. All of this. And here's my thing. If you really want to go out into the W-2, if you want to go grab that W-2, then go grab it. If it's the perfect job for you, by all means, because I've always said that. Do what's the best thing for you. Earnings for your mind, for what makes you happy. All of those factors, whatever's most important to you, go do you. But be careful in the W-2 world, because right now, I don't feel like it's that much more stable in many areas than gig work. Thoughts? Put them in the comments. And that's 13 minutes of news in 13 minutes or less. And this will be the last time in the nothing office. Peace!